What's one rule that your school/workplace has implemented that absolutely backfired? Work instituted a points system for being late or calling off sick. Accrue too many points and you get written up, fired if it continues. They doled out the same number of points whether someone was a minute late or called off altogether. And if an absence lasted up to 5 days, it was still only one absence. So anyone who overslept or encountered heavy traffic and was running late would just stay home for the rest of the week. After several months, they decided that being late was only worth half a point. A few years ago we weren't allowed to stand in groups bigger than 4 at our school because this old teacher told us it was gang behavior and encouraging gang violence. One day my entire year of like 100 plus people got in a massive group screaming gang gang and throwing gang signs on our school field, so they had to bring every single teacher out to try and split us apart for a straight 20 minutes. Best school day ever. Any support call lasting longer than 25 minutes must be reported to higher ups for review, i.e. if you have too many, no matter if it's your fault or not, you get a disciplinary review. I implemented the rule of politely hang up on a customer as close to 25 minutes as you can and call them right back. I'm sorry, I'm experiencing a small issue with my phone. Is it okay if I call you right back? Gotcha. Outgoing calls are not reported or recorded. It's amazing. Because of rumors of a drug problem in the school, the administration decided to drug test students. The media jumped all over that, violation of our civil rights or something. The initial statement was that anyone who failed the test would be kicked out of school. After the 40th or so kid failed, they changed the policy to mandatory meetings with the counselor. After the 100th kid failed, they hired another counselor. We used to be allowed to stream music etc on our computers. Spotify was an approved program and would come installed on your computer. Someone complained about productivity despite us always doing our work, and so they banned streaming of any kind on our computers. But now everyone just listens on their phones. So you walk around the office and nearly everyone has their phone out now. So it looks even worse when sponsors come into the office. My friend worked as a technician at a place that did installation for telecom, sound, cable, pretty much anything tech related really. The techs were paid by work order completion. Each job had a value that got paid out when you finished the work order. The experienced techs could finish more jobs in a day and made some seriously good money. They were motivated to work fast to get more jobs done, but also to do it correctly, because having to go back within a certain time window and fix a problem didn't pay out, so it lost money. Well, some new management came in and decided to change everyone to hourly wages. Their idea to make techs focus on getting the job done right and not rushing it. All the really good techs saw a massive pay cut from it and immediately quit. The rest of the techs suddenly had no reason to finish jobs quickly since you got paid the same whether you did 2 installs or 10 installs in one day, so everyone just started slacking off. Within a few weeks the orders were backed up so bad install dates were pushed out for a month or more, and when people finally did get their stuff installed it took all day instead of a couple hours. That one change completely fucked over the company. It was actually my rule. When I was managing a store, my rule was that the closer had to do all the closing work and mark the checklist and I would check it the following morning. However, I put a loophole in. If you close tonight and open tomorrow, you can come in early the following morning. I was really the only one who closed and then opened the following morning. And I knew that on many of those days I worked 10 hours with non-stop managerial work. So instead of staying late to clean, I like to come in early and do it in sunlight. Well, one day I followed my rule, and the next morning I woke up sick and had to call an employee to cover. He showed up to a dirty store, opted not to clean, and then got written up when the owner made a surprise visit. I didn't close, so it wasn't my job, and the owner said you work here and the store is dirty, so it is your job. I then had to go tell the owner that it was my fault, and he still responded regardless of what you did or didn't do. He came into a dirty store and did not clean it. That's not acceptable. I removed my rule change and just made it mandatory to clean before leaving lol. Had a fellow at my old place of work that was promoted to sales manager. Within a few days he drafts up a document which he tries to get all of us to sign, basically stating that we aren't working to our full potential and that to make profits or we would have to work even when we weren't working, aka taking calls from customers no matter the day or time. This resulted in an almost immediate revolt and about 10 plus people bypassing him directly and going right to the owner. He was demoted, then later fired within a week. The deputy head of our school banned fidget spinners, and rightly so. In his defense, they were everywhere. On the final day of year 11th, someone hacked his school intranet login and edited the bulletin, leaving a notice in his name saying that fidget spinners were now not only unbanned, but mandatory, and that aficionados could come to his office and learn tips and tricks from him. All printers were defaulted to print two-sided, and you were unable to disable that feature. The thought process being that this would reduce paper waste by literally cutting consumption in half, prevent people from printing out personal crap on work printers. This was decided by a committee of people, primarily from ours, who were tasked by the CIA to find ways to reduce costs and improve our corporate culture. To improve our culture, we basically decided that we'd be cunts about work printers, and then we'd all sing together and have a Coke. What ended up happening instead was that corporate finance shit a brick because you can't, or shouldn't, print financials double-sided, and the eyes doesn't take too kindly to getting filings delivered to them in that fashion. Reverse the policy? Nope. Just force areas to add blank pages into documents so that we trick the printers. Bowers then implemented their new Gestapo program where you were awarded for turning in anyone who was doing personal business on work computers or on work printers. The problem was that a stunning amount of personal business was actually stuff like employee benefits stuff, filling out insurance forms, submitting flex pay receipts, scanning your transcripts for our tuition assistance program, etc. While the VP of ours decided to go full on thunder cunt and say that employee benefit stuff wasn't work related and needed to be done at home on your personal PC, our freaking chief legal officer came down as our voice of moral reasoning to say that was bullshit, and only then did some of the stupidity unfold. The printer thing was done officially once the KO and CFO started getting double-sided financials. When they complained, their underlings gave them time studies to show the financial cost of having highly paid CPAs do shit like insert blank pages to trick printers instead of, doing accounting and stuff. During our general meeting last week, the owner of the company went on a bit of a rant about negative reviews of management on a popular jobs website with a green logo. He demanded that we stop posting negative reviews immediately and shamed anyone in the room who had done so. As you can guess, people doubled down and posted their grievances on the same day as the meeting. I was told this story when I was in the army by a parachute rigger. The workday in the army is 9 o'clock to 4:30. Riggers packing troop shoots had a daily quota of 35 shoots. Once they got good at it, these guys could be done by 2:30, which is a very nice workday indeed. Well, they got this new captain who decided that, since these guys are getting 35 done by 2:30, then obviously making them work until 4:30 would increase output even more. So of course that unit's numbers went way down, and the 35 and you're done for the day was quickly reinstated. In college after my freshman year, they decided on a new rule set to enforce a meal plan because students just weren't signing up for them and students were renting small houses nearby. Therefore, you're not allowed to move off campus unless your home is within 30 minutes of campus. You have to have a meal plan while living on campus. Our food was god awful bad. I researched into why it was so bad, and it turns out it was by Sodexo. Half the time, all the food was so horrid that we couldn't stomach it, and the other half it was just bad, but stomachable. Know what happened? Students had meal plans, but they didn't eat. They went out and bought their own groceries to bring them back to their rooms. School realized it was wasting tons of food because it was preparing it and nobody was eating it, so it tried to shame the students by showing us how much was wasted every week. Some students decided to respond by putting a sign on the administration's door saying, "Food won't be wasted if you give us some actual damn food we can eat." Another big one was when they implemented the housing lottery for our campus. Originally, it was a first come first serve basis. Administration got pissed because people started camping out in front of the area the night before, so the ones who really wanted certain roommates could make sure they were there bright and early. So the random lottery system comes in, and we were told we couldn't change a decision at all until a month after the next year started. Everyone just made swaps on their own and told the administration afterwards. Administration got pissed and said they needed to move back to their original rooms, and most everyone said no. So if you need me, here I'm at this location. I swapped with this person so me and my friend or friends could room together like we wanted. I was gone by this one, but the school had a very rare type of semester schedule that made us stand apart from everyone else. We were a block schedule. A new president came in, and she decided that we needed to get off that and instead go to a weird hybrid system that just sounded more convoluted than going to a normal semester system. Turns out, the faculty and students hated that idea in ridiculous amounts, and it showed in a campus-wide vote on it where the results were published. New president decided to force it to change by saying that the faculty had influenced the student body, that it was inconvenient for them, and therefore the votes of almost everyone who didn't like it didn't count. A massive amount of professors retired at the end of that year in response. Not me, but my friend's old place. My friend was one to show up a half hour early before work, and was a commission-based salesman with salary, just like the other salesmen, who would always show up barely on time 2 hours late. Friday night comes along, and management decides to hold a meeting to announce the new policy. If you're late, you go home for the day, and if you're late 3 days a month, you're fired. The weekend goes by and everyone is on time. During the week, a few people call out sick right as the store opens. The weekend is coming up, and my buddy is scheduled for Saturday, but not Sunday or Monday, and he's going to Disneyland with his wife, who has Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. Friday night he packs his wife's car. Saturday comes along, and he's in the parking lot a half hour early. He pops in his favorite cassette, fires up a joint, and proceeds to hotbox his car. He walks in 5 minutes late, reeking of pot, looks at the clock, and then to his boss in front of the whole sales floor, and loudly says, "Oops, I'm late, guess I need to go home," with a shit-eating grin on his face. The bosses started backpedaling the policy, and started to tell him it wasn't for him, and they all let it slide. He loudly stated that it wouldn't be fair if they made an exception for him, and that he would see them Tuesday. When he got back to work on Tuesday, the policy was gone. Same company years later hired some absolute genius of an accountant who sold the idea to management that employees were making more than management, and that they should go from commission to salary. All the top salesmen jumped ship ASAP. The remaining bottom feeders got a raise compared to their normal salary and commission, and they didn't have to do shit all day to get it. Less than a year later, they shut their doors for the last time. Lonedale R14 School in Lonedale, MO, late 80s, early 90s, our fairly small rural school went from K8. So, we split lunch times in our gym/cafeteria. For some reason our school actually invested in a noise control system, because we could apparently be quite loud during lunch, and I guess the teachers got tired of trying to keep us kids quiet, and eat. This new piece of equipment was mounted high on the wall, and looked exactly like a stoplight. When it was green, we were free to talk. If it became yellow, we were to be careful of how much noise we made. If it turned red it would buzz loud, like when the game clock runs out at a basketball game. Installing this thing almost immediately had the opposite effect they desired. It became a game to us. We would only get quiet in order to make it go back to green. Then, as a large group, we would progressively get louder. We would stall it out at yellow before surging our collective voices to make it hit red and buzz, at which time we would all cheer, laugh and get quiet again to reset it to green. Good times. Programmer here. Management implemented an agile work tracking system that measured programmers by the amount of feature requests they completed. We quickly figured out how to game that system by breaking everything down into the maximum number of feature requests we could imagine. We'd make separate feature stories for make new button, make button blue, make button respond when clicked, make new page for the new report, run business logic to get results, display results in grid, set font for grid, make grid sortable, make back button return to previous page. We became great at dividing a 1-day task into 21-hour tasks. Management loved it. Our team looked 20 times as productive and became an example to show off our process as the best performing team, despite producing far less actual work and more useless form filling. Our process integrity people decided every international order over $100,000 needed to be approved by a manager at the purchase requisition stage before the sales order could be processed. The problem? Purchase requisitions only generated after the sales order was completed. This meant it was impossible to complete any international order worth more than $100,000, and they launched this policy unannounced 2 days before Christmas. I ended up staying in the office until 9 at night trying to get our data people to create a way for me to order $300K in parts from Sweden before the holidays. When my school moved to a newly built site, they also tried to establish a new ruler set for a new generation or something. The first one, because they loved their fancy new building so much, was that nobody was allowed to leave the building until the end of the school day, including breaks. The front door would literally be locked, unless there was a fire alarm. Suffice to say, either nobody turned up, or a lot of fire alarms were pulled before the rule was thrown away. There were also military-style uniform inspections at random throughout the day, and they looked to us, I was in 6th form, to set the example for the kids. However, they were so overzealous and dictatorial that it became comical, and we all very quickly stopped caring and told them to send us home or get lost and stop treating us like trash. There were more stupid rules like this, but our first group of 6th form ended up tearing them all down in a couple of months.